What really bothers me about this deal here, he was Bob Martin's original partner years ago. And whenever we found out the real Bob Martin, what he was like, Gene never disowned him, never had a negative word to say about him. Even though we'd found out this stuff, he started his campaign from a beer joint, you know. So it bothers me that Eugene Simmons hasn't taken the reins of justice in this county.
He told us out here, he said he has nothing to do with Bob Martin. Bob Martin's a crook. He told us.
Even Gene said that?
He said that right out here, but he never did sign a paper to the effect of what I
Right, he just told you that.
Because, I mean, he's going to say anything he wants to try to get elected.
Yeah.
He was prosecutor before and he was a joke.
Well, yeah, he was.
And that comes from the old people in this county that really knows the people that was going on.
Yeah, the old timers.
I've never met Bob Martin in person. Couldn't say nothing about the guy. I've talked to a few people in Charleston. They told me to stay clear of him.
Oh, I got a call from a lawyer in Charleston telling me to watch out.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know him, but I've heard a lot about him, and I heard the story about him and him before, and he was married to a Mitchell. And, I mean, I've never met him in person. He walked right here today. I couldn't tell you if it was him or not.
Who he was.
So, but
well, now let me ask you about something else. What have you heard? There's another fellow running that I think personally is a mouthpiece for Janice, and that's that Joel Schroeds. He's
a joke, and I told him right to his face he was a joke. And I told him that I heard he was supporting the sheriff, and him and the sheriff's like that. He told me no, he can't be. He was in that auxiliary.
Yeah, that's right. He was. But he was running the propaganda on a weekly basis. So, he was the one that bragged up Totten being such a great, the nation's best.
Mm-hmm. That's finally come out and backfired since we got somebody with some backbone to stick up to.
Yeah. Now, I noticed that Janice has got a sign up, I believe, down there at the Buzzard place, the man with the biggest cojones.
Never seen that.
Well, I think that's a funny sign because I don't think that David Janice has got any cojones.
When David Janice first started running, Dave Walton was there. It was a hard choice to make.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like what was done to my daughter from the previous administration.
Right.
And what Walt Wyford done to my daughter. She told a story. She told a statement. She gave a statement. 3 months later, she went in and told the prosecutor right in front of me, word for word, the same thing that was on the statement. Went downstairs. They took my daughter in there. Threw me out. I wasn't no witness to it. Threw me out, threw Crystal out, and kept my daughter in there. Kathy Beveridge done this at 9 years old. And the case got dismissed because they rattled her. She didn't have no family there with her
to support her.
Support her. And Walt Wyford was part of that deal, and I got no use for him, and I got no use for Kathy Beveridge.
Well, no, I don't
Kathy
either.
Beveridge was the matter, and she should have never let. She should have let somebody be her as a guardian.
Well, yeah. Well, see, the law says she'd have had to have, at that age, she'd have had to have a guardian ad litem. There'd had to have been a lawyer standing there.
Just the prosecutor.
You're not the only. And who was that prosecutor on that?
Walt Wyford.
Walt Wyford. With that type of thing, you had to have a lawyer to defend the rights. But you're the second person now that's told me where they've been excluded from a meeting in which their child was the whatever, the plaintiff in this case. Your daughter was complaining, right?
She's seen the boy breaking my house.
Okay. In the other case, it was a boy who had been, they had burned him, they tried to drown him, other juveniles had, and he was told he couldn't be in there with his son.
Yeah, and I didn't even witness what my daughter seen. She told me.
Well, this individual didn't witness it either, but you're still the father. And until the state takes that child away and transfers guardianship to someone else, you still got a right to know. And I have people time to time call me and say, are the police allowed to talk to my kid? What gives them the right to do it? And here's where they sneak around. They sneak around and do it at school. Now, my friend discovered something. He discovered that there were two people who were coming up to school and talking to his son, and they weren't they weren't really officially anything. They were working, I guess, for Seneca. One of them was Walt Wyford's daughter. And finally, when he raised a racket on it, they said, she's out of it. She can't be here. Neither one of them.
Well, Kathy threw me out of the office down there. She told me I couldn't go in there with my daughter sitting in there in the room.
And your daughter was only 9 years old?
9 years old, 8 or 9 years old. Totally strangers in that room.
They could get anything they wanted out of that.
And they confused her in her story. But she told her story word for word. My wife said, I can't believe this. She told me something word for word what was in a statement 3 months.
3 months later.
Yeah. And I don't believe in the justice system in this county.
So they were trying to dump that one out, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. And there's no doubt in my mind. That's why I voted for Janice the first time. I was a strong supporter for Janice.
I was too.
But he's disappointed me in the way the stuff went on in this county and the mockery going on in this county, and he told me he was going to straighten it up. But you know what? Instead of getting straightened up, it's got worse.
It is worse.
I'd rather have about Bob Alcar or Jerry
He
Gill.
has managed to make Bob Alcar look like a good guy.
Bob Alcar looks like 100% better than Janice right now.
Yeah, I'm going to have to, when I see Bob, I'm going to have to apologize to him because I sure made a big mistake.
I told Bob Alcar personally myself that. I said, we went from, thought we was going from worse to good, but we went from worse to worser.
Yeah, right.
With the scale of 1 to 10, Bob was about a 5. You know, on the climbing list to a 6.
Yeah.
But now we went from a 6 to a 10. That's just the way I feel. Tell
On
the
the
way I
bottom.
see them. I have nothing to lie about.
Well, now what you think is going to happen to Danny?
I don't know. They won't
Tell you anything, and
tell us nothing.
so he's not got any bail. They're not intending on letting him out.
0 bail.
Did they even have another hearing for him to, you know, like Totten, whenever they put him over in the jail, they said, well, we'll have another hearing, and they had it just like that. Then they said, okay, we're going to have another hearing. It was another time. Oh, they were quick to get him out. But Danny Lambert doesn't get out. He's just a plain old common guy.
He's put in jail with a pretrial felon. So what is it?
With no bail.
No bail. 0 bail.
That shows you how dirty James Rowe is.
Got no use for him.
He thinks once he get elected, he can just do whatever he wants.
Got no use for him at all. You know, I did kind of respect him a little bit.
Well, see, he's the one that signed, he and Paponio both signed an order not allowing us to look at the law books anymore in the courthouse.
I found that out yesterday.
That's the absolute truth.
I found that out yesterday. I think we're just going to need to bring a news team in here and get it on the national news for this county and let people know what's going on down here in the courthouse. In Greenbrier County, it will be announced about them.
Yeah.
And I plan on addressing it because I got some friends in low places.
And I can tell you that you got the proof right here. I'm holding a thing right up here. I don't know whether it can be read on the camera. That this is the I need a copy of all officer certifications within 3 business days. This is Donna asking for this. I need a copy of academy certifications, radar training and equipment certification, DUI and toxilator training and equipment certifications. Failure to comply with this memo will lead to suspension of all cases involving officers I do not have certifications on. Now, see, I filed discovery, and whenever the cop didn't even show up, they had never provided any of this stuff that Donna was asking for, and it was dismissed.
With prejudice.
Yeah, when Janet dismissed it because the officer didn't show. How many times are you and I supposed to show up? Was no problem for me, 10 miles to town. You're 40 or 50 miles from that courthouse. And what would happen if you took a day off from work, I'm retired, and driven down there, and the cop didn't show up?
It's $50 in gas plus my day of work, so it's $200 or $300.
Then they want to move the courthouse up here, down there, so that everybody has to go.
That was because of Janice is the ones putting cameras up in the office up here. That if your father or my father had a pacemaker in,
right, it would have killed him.
If he walked by there and this camera spiked up, it would have killed him, and it was totally against FCC law to be in here. If he wanted to put cameras in there, do the proper channels,
Get a proper camera.
get a proper.
And you're on the fire department here, right?
Yes.
You do emergency service work?
Yes.
It could have happened.
If it would have spiked up, it could have killed anybody. We got a train that runs down the track here. If it would have spiked and somebody had a pacemaker, it could have killed them.
It could have killed the engineer.
I'd also like to say this: people who read this need to go in here and look at the thing about Mr. Simmons. You need to think before you vote for somebody that's had his license disbarred 5 or 6 times. It's all public record.
And for crooking people.
And for crooking people, you can go to the Lawyers Disciplinary Board.
This guy is a proven crook.
Yep, it's all in black and white. That's where I got my copies.
Yeah, you've got the official copy there.
I've got the copy of every record. What happened to him, what he done to people, and everything. And we don't need somebody like that in there for the prosecutor.
We sure don't.